Hey, welcome back to One Good Idea, the same podcast. I am, as you know, your host, Peter Franzen. Thanks for making some time to listen to what we're talking about today. I want to tell you about Tiffany Green. She's someone who believes educational success is not primarily an information problem. It's often a social capital problem, a confidence problem, and sometimes a trauma problem. As a first generation college student and a licensed therapist, an educator, and founder, Dr. Green has spent years helping students navigate opportunities that feel overwhelming and unfamiliar and intimidating. And long before AI entered the picture, she was focused on helping students build confidence, access support, pursue pathways that they might otherwise just avoid. Today, AI presents new opportunities to deliver guidance and support at scale. And the challenge, I think, is ensuring that technology expands opportunity without replacing the human relationships that help people grow. So please welcome Dr. Tiffany Green. Hi, Tiffany.
Hi, it's good to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, it's our pleasure and our honor to have you here. I've been looking forward to our talk. And as I prepared for our conversation, Tiffany, a few themes kept showing up. As I just said, you are a first generation college student who
Mhm.
discovered opportunities like me, who discovered opportunities you didn't even know existed. And
Yeah,
you realized that was what was missing wasn't necessarily intelligence or ambition. It was exposure and mentorship and community.
that's
And then
right.
later, as an educator and therapist, you began to see that many students who appeared disengaged, they weren't unmotivated at all. They were, I guess, overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And you said something that I read that really stopped me. And you said it's a social capital problem, but it's also a trauma problem. Uh, Tell us a little bit. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, that's such a great question, right? I think in the literature, when we're thinking about economic mobility, when we're thinking about students finding their best fit, when we're thinking about college or career, it's usually indexed around this term of social capital, right? Like who has the knowledge, who has the networks to be able to like navigate things. And I do think that that's like a big piece of it, right? Because if I don't even know the world of opportunities, how will I want to seek them? And so I do think that you need individuals and you need information to do that. I do think that the one thing I always felt was missing in that was what does it mean to have a whole child approach when taking a risk like going to college, taking on an internship, doing this study abroad program to better your application chances, when you graduate high school, actually poses a threat to your nervous system, right? So our nervous system is always going to search for comfort. It's looking for not only just comfort but safety, psychological safety. And psychological safety happens, what we know, through a lot of different ways. Sometimes it's through eye contact, sometimes it's through familiarity, sometimes it's through a person who can ground you in that space. And when we're talking about first generation students who also might be under resourced, that appear that they have like lower income status with them and their family, they're in new environments that is going to be a trigger for the nervous system. And in good measure and good faith, our nervous system is designed to protect us, is designed to keep us safe and to push us to comfort so that way we can know how to navigate whatever we're leaning into. And so when you're putting me outside of my comfort zone, naturally I'm hyper vigilant. Naturally, I'm on guard. And so, if I'm on guard, that means that all the elements that happen when your body goes into fight, flight, or freeze, like your brain, your intellectual part of your brain is shrinking, right? You're highly emotional. Those are the things we actually need. We need the intellectual part of our brain in order to navigate economic mobility. I don't even have access to it because I've been placed outside of what could be a grounded nervous system for psychological safety. And so when I noticed that, I said, man, this is how it came up. People always talk about social capital. Kids need more social capital. Great.
Yeah.
Then I worked at a school where kids had social capital. They were at a charter school that was doing phenomenal things. I mean, these schools, their classrooms had been colleges since they were in kindergarten. Their field trips were to university. So they had solved the gap of kids don't know the opportunities that are out there. No, the kids knew. Now, when you ask them to sit down and take advantage of these opportunities, I realize that these students we're fight, flighting, and freezing, which looks like procrastination, opting out, all of these other kind of psychosocial measures. In the same way, my clients would look in a clinical setting. And so I said, wow, even when you solve the social capital gap, if you don't provide enough resources to make it trauma informed, it's still not enough.
Right. Wow. Well, you mentioned in particular kids from under-resourced families, low-income kids. Can you spell out for people who maybe don't get it or haven't thought about it, what advantages do students, you talked about these kids in a high-performing charter school, but what advantages do students from upper income or highly connected families receive that maybe go unnoticed or uncredited or?
Yeah. It's a hard thing to make tangible. And so I try to describe it in this way. When you are in a well-resourced community where there's an abundance of people that you take for granted that have a lot of degrees, have gone to a lot of different colleges, may have lived in a lot of different states and had to move because opportunity existed somewhere else, you're breathing in the air of agility. You're breathing in the air of opportunity and connectivity to anyone who have been to these places that you're interested in. And so I think about it all the time, right? I always go back to little Tiffany. That's exactly why I built Uprooted Academy is for me to have had more resources, better support. And not because I needed it, but so did my family, so did my school, so did my school counselor. These are people who loved me deeply and knew that I was really smart and knew that I would go really far in the world. Now, what their version of really far was limited to their own imagination. I don't know if they saw, I don't even know if I saw what I'm doing now, right? But they invested in me. It wasn't like people didn't believe in me. They knew I would be something really, really great, right? And they poured lots and lots of resources into me. The problem is the resources in the community that I grew up in were only resources that they have been exposed to. Right. And their measurement of what was a good support structure was only measured based off of maybe what they didn't have and they wanted to up it at ante. But you have no idea what other people are getting. And so the one thing I always like to level the playing field is this. When I was in my city, right, getting resources, there was no version of Tiffany that knew that somebody was getting something else. And students in well-resourced communities don't know that I'm not getting what they're getting. So I think we just need to say that I am thankful for people who have more resources. It is my hope to provide more resources to other people. So no one's guilty of this. It just is what it is when you live in these communities of abundance. So let's say to little Tiffany's walking through the grocery store. We had a stop and shop. So we're walking through a stop and shop and someone overhears that I'm a high school senior. A lot of people might swarm me in that stop and shop. And what they're giving me is a lot of encouragement, a lot of excitement, and a lot of affirmation that I can do this thing. Now let's just talk even where I live now. I live in West LA, in a fairly well-resourced community. It's a high transient population. Everyone has every degree, known to man. There's an Apple, there's a Google, there's an Erewhon grocery store, which is you pay $25 for eggs. It's a social media trend, but it's there, right? Now, if I were to if little Tiffany was there and bumped into someone in the Erewhon, in the Trader Joe's, in the Whole Foods, in the Sprouts, and they overheard that I was a 12th grade student, the type of information they're going to flood me with is information that moves the needle towards me getting closer to what I imagine my goal to be. It's not that I'm not getting something in the stop and shop where I grew up. It just wasn't information that was catalytic to bring me towards where I need to go, right? They didn't know how to help me navigate highly selective admissions. They didn't understand, how to help me find these scholarships or what was possible, or knew someone who wanted to be an aerospace engineer and could say, hey, you can interview here. A 12th grade kid who runs into me or anyone else in the elevator in my building, they're swarmed with social capital that has tangible results that can move the needle onto where they want to go. So both students are working really hard and giving the same amount of intensity. One is moving towards the goal and one is just moving in place. And that's the difference between, folks who have resources and are in abundance of social capital and those who don't. And by design, if you like talk to any urban planner, these are all by design. Like certain communities are isolated from this stuff, right? So from a social justice perspective, there's isolation that's happening. And this is why Uprooted Academy, because we get to use technology to go and bypass those like red lines, for lack of a better word.
Wow. Now you've also said that many students aren't disengaged; they're overwhelmed. And when
Mhm.
adults see a teenager procrastinating, avoiding decisions, or missing deadlines, what are those adults often misreading about those kids?
Yeah, I wrote a little bit about this, but it's usually a value based off of the student. They don't care enough, they don't want it enough, they're not gritty enough, right? The whole word grit and that whole movement was weaponized really for under-resourced students, and I don't think Angela Duckworth ever meant for it to happen that way, but that's just how it went, right? And so we just go back to these like high resource areas. Usually, someone is honored with a badge of grit after they've done something in high resource communities. So you've done something, you probably had a lot of support, and someone says, wow, you had a lot of grit for that. In under resourced community, grit is supposed to be the catalyzer for you to get the thing done. And that's not what it's supposed to be, because grit will actually move you towards burnout, right? Because you're powering through and then you power down. And so I think just the way that grit has been, understood in those communities, the students are literally powering through. They're overwhelmed. They don't have enough support. They don't even know what they should have agency on. They don't have enough information. And because of that, our system, for lack of better words, is overheating. And when my phone overheats, it shuts down. Right. We know that about every other system. Our brain and our nervous system are also systems that also have the same kind of makeup. When it is above its capacity, it is designed to protect ourselves and to shut down. And so when adults see that, they say, like these students in these communities, you start making all these assumptions, you start broad stroking what people are like and what they can and cannot do. And the data starts to show that. And then that's our narrative. And so what happens is people misinterpret what the system is doing to protect a kid as if this is what the kid wants to do on their own will. But I always like to spell out that our nervous system is autonomic, right? Which means that we can't like change how it like operates. It's literally just going to do what it needs to do. Just like I can't make my phone stay on when it's in the sun. It's an automatic system that's designed and coded to say, nope, not safe, shut down. And so what we need to think about as like educators, as family members, as community people that are like helping adults, young people navigate a flourishing life that could be choice filled, is that usually when they're shut down, it's because if we just think about it, I wonder if they're above their capacity. What do they need? I know exactly what my phone needs when it's above its capacity. I need to like hide it out and put it in a cool place, right? And you do the thing. But we don't think about people that way. We often overlook it and say, well, they'll turn back on when they're ready. But no, if I leave my phone, I'm gonna go with the phone analogy. If I leave my phone out, right, it's never gonna turn back on unless I cool it down. And so what does it mean for us to take an approach to cool down our students, right? To help them to like find that cooling, to ground themselves so their brain can reactivate, their bodies can feel safe, and they can go and move towards action for what they want to do. Because I guarantee you, when my students that I used to work with, no one woke up every day and said, I'm going to sabotage my life.
Right.
Not one. Right? It happens so subtly. And when the adults or the other people in the room aren't aware of why it's happening, then it just continues to be a part of their identity. Oh, they get so close to every opportunity, then they just give up. Well, there's a pattern there. Let's dig deeper. And I think for me, as someone who worked in this space, I started as a clinician, as a therapist, right? So starting in that way and then moving towards a social kind of academic space, right? Like helping kids get into college, I couldn't unsee these things with my clinical eye. I can only see it that way. And so normally you don't have this sort of change in your career. Usually if you're a clinician, you're going to stay a clinician, you're going to do the clinician thing. If you're in college access, you're going to do college access. For me, the road was really interesting in how I got involved, but I'm thankful because now I'm seeing things in a new way that I think I want to get more people on board on.
Tiffany, I think you may have just answered this in what you said. I was going to ask you about do educators sometimes mistake fear for a lack of motivation? Do you think?
Absolutely, right? Fear is a response that, again, once that happens, if we just understand the neuroscience of what happens when our nervous system goes from psychological safety to either, like parasympathetic or dorsal. I just like to keep it really simple for people. Either you're safe, you're scared, or you're shut down. Those are the three levels. There's really fancy words. We don't need them. Safe, scared, shut down, right? When we're scared, your body's job is actually designed to move you to survival. And in survival, we actually do not need intellect because all you got to do is move your way out of the thing, which is why fight, flight, or freeze is the actual things that are so active. But what people are not understanding is part of this autonomic response is that the neural elements of my brain to think actually shrink so then our body can have more energy to move and to fight or to freeze. And I always like to make this akin to, after you eat like a really big meal and, what do you want to do? You normally want to sleep, right? And that is the body's way of saying, hey, we need to have all hands on deck to digest this food. So you go to sleep and rest the other parts of your body so we can focus on this. In the same way, when our nervous system goes from safety to scared, it's doing the same thing. Hey, everything else, turn off. We don't need you right now. All hands on deck to move me into safety by either fighting, flighting, or freezing. And so when people say that students who have fear lack motivation, it's because they're not understanding the neuroscience of this autonomic system and how it's brain and body connected.
How much do you think, how much of like educational success for a student is really about helping students become comfortable doing difficult things?
Like the productive struggle. Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with it. And I actually think even the work that we're doing is a little too late. So ideally, in a perfect world, Peter, if you gave me like $10 million, feel free to wire that tonight.
Okay.
Anytime. If you were to give me this is actually what I would design. When we think about the very first moment of dysregulation for students related to academic safety, right? It's likely going to be, some people might say maybe when they enter school, but I think that's a lot of attachment theory once you're early on. But for me, the first level where the coding in our brain can get mixed up is at third grade when they take their first assessment, right? So ideally, the way that our brain works is it's always going to make shortcuts of everything that it's learned because of lived experience. It could be vicarious learning, it could be like something I've actually been through. So let's say little Tiffany, third grade. I get my first assessment. I know it's a big deal because everyone says this is going to be a big deal, right? This might mean that I get to go to a talented and gifted program. It means what reading level. It has all these implications that I don't know at third grade, but everyone tells me it's a big deal. We get out of school early. We have special lunch. Like the whole thing is set, right? I show up. It's a big deal. Now I'm nervous. I'm biting my nails, right? Like I'm tapping my feet. And most of us will say that's a normal response. Actually, little Tiffany actually needs someone to come and regulate her because what they need to let me know is I'm safe. And it's okay to feel safe when you are safe. And the problem is, once that happens, my brain has just connected an assessment that has a big meaning to something that I cannot like physically handle. Instead, everyone's like, oh, she's biting her nails. That's so cute. Because I bite my nails because adults, we can't regulate either, right? So it's not like we're any better than the students. And so what little Tiffany at third grade needs to know is there's a difference between discomfort and danger. And I learned this lesson as a rock climber, right? Like as a rock climber, you want to go up, you want to rappel, you have all the equipment. I am not in danger when I am on a rock, like on a mountain and scaling it, right? It is a little bit discomfort because it's not where I normally go. And I usually walk on the ground. And now I'm doing this thing. I'm kind of head over. I can look down. It looks like a lot. But the equipment actually makes me safe. And I, and little Tiffany at third grade, needs to understand the fundamental difference that in discomfort, we can push through. But in dysregulation or when there's danger, we actually need to stop and scan our environment. If this isn't safe, then our body needs to move me to fight, flight, or freeze. But instead, no one tells me the difference at third grade. And so now I am associating this big moment that's academic. It's an academic risk, and everything's going to fall on me. And now what's happening is I'm biting my nails, I'm clenching my jaw, I'm tapping my feet, I can't think, my stomach hurts. And guess what? My brain isn't activated. So now I do poorly on the test. And it's this like constant thing because we know when I'm in fight, flight, or freeze, the access part of my brain to my intellect is not available. It's offline. And so now all of this comes. So in third grade, with your $10 million, Peter, we are going to be able to solve this because what we'll do is we'll train third grade teachers to be able to be hyper vigilant of their class to come over and say, hey, Tiffany, look at me. Let's scan the room. Are we safe? What could we hear? What could we see? What could we taste? Here's some water. Here's a little, fidget to activate your system, your senses, put you back in the present. We're safe now. And when I do that, when I'm told, take a deep breath, I'm safe. It's okay to feel safe when I am safe. Now my brain starts to become active. I can sit down, I can do this thing, and it doesn't feel overwhelming. But if no one regulates me at third grade, at sixth grade, at ninth grade, at 10th grade, at 11th grade when I take the SAT, and now I'm taking this other thing, it is a perpetual issue of persisting and doing well in something I can actually do. Third graders are not failing this assessment because they're not smart. They're failing the assessment because they're using a small part of the intellectual part of their brain that's designed to show up for them in this moment. But because no one regulated them, because no one created like a strong synapse connectivity, I don't have access. And so that is what is actually happening. And so as the stakes get higher, and I'm bringing in all of the stress from third grade to sixth grade, ninth grade, 10th grade, 11th grade. Now I'm sitting here and I'm trying to fill out this application and all of it floods back because remember our brain, that's why neuroscience is so important in this. Our brain has collective memories of things that are similar. If it looks like it, it smells like it is it. And remember, our nervous system doesn't have intellect. So it's just taking in these cues, right? Wow, everybody's really excited. It's SAT day or it's application day. I should be excited. Oh, but the first time I remember that excitement was third grade. So I'm going to do exactly what I did at third grade. And so it's just doing it. But now the stakes are higher. I have more stress because I'm in high school. Who's not stressed in high school? You're thinking about who am I going to date? Who am I going to take to prom? Life is just overwhelming. Right. And now I sit down and I can't persist through this application because my capacity is actually even lower than it was in third grade. And so I spent a lot of my life doing something called EMDR. It's a modality for therapy, and it helps to create these synaptic connectivities within our brain so that way we can have better ideas of what these memories should have been producing, which is this is a hard thing. I can do hard things. That's probably what little Tiffany wanted to know. She needed someone to ground her. And then she needed the, kind of like the positive cognition to kind of say, it's hard, but I can do hard things. And I'm prepared. I'm ready for this. I'm safe here. And so then when it shows up again in sixth grade, and then by the time you get to high school, you're applying to college, the muscle memory of it's safe, I can do this, it's hard and it's okay, is now driving me to keep me grounded versus for most of our students, they're pulling up that third grade loop.
Right. Now, Tiffany, when we met a few months ago at a conference,
Yep.
I was, as you maybe saw, super geeked because AI is affecting all of us and we're all kind of, but then I was reading more about you and it became clear to me in one interview you were talking about, I think in 2023, I'm proud to announce that we're introducing AI. And I'm like, oh, so there was, so there was Uprooted before AI and Uprooted after AI. So can you talk a little bit about sort of that beginning part? So before AI, what were you working on and how were you conceptualizing what Uprooted Academy would be?
Yeah, so before AI, we were strictly a social capital, social emotional kind of product for folks to be able to use in their advising program to help kids apply to college. So it's funny, we just saw this old banner that we used to have for our advertisements. And it said, because we had this video curriculum and then we had all this mindfulness stuff. And so the banner said, when Netflix meets Calm is Uprooted Academy for college applications. Because what we did was we trained students in the social capital elements, but then we gave them a whole bunch of stuff. So there was like movement work and sound bowls and affirmations and journal activities. We still have all of that now, but it was very much not as personalized. It was just like something that they could use. We trained counselors on how to have this holistic approach, and that's what Uprooted Academy was before AI.
It was
Yeah.
like, it was, I don't want to mischaracterize it, but I mean, it was like a personal like growth and development. Like I can learn these things. I can learn these techniques. I can maybe kind of reprogram myself a little bit. And the counselors at schools, like guidance counselors.
Yeah, and we did that, and I always say this, like even our new platform now, even with AI, it's like, yes, we do college and career readiness, but behind it is a youth development engine that's helping people to be better people and to thrive and persist in the midst of like uncertainty. And so, yeah, it was social capital curriculum on how to have a really strong college application, but not just that, it was a whole child approach where we also gave these other nuggets.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So, well, as we're running out of time, I'll stop stringing along people who tuned in to hear about AI. Can you
Yeah.
can you tell us a little bit about? It sounds like around 2023. Did I have that right, or 2022?
Mm.
How did what started happening? And you in your work as a therapist, or you just it made sense to you. There's something we can do here with AI that's going to change this.
Yeah, it was a no-brainer, right? AI becomes an equity bridge builder, right? Yes, you can have curriculum that's static and that kids can use, but AI can make it personalized. And when we think about guidance and we think about navigation and we think about the caseloads that high school counselors have, the issue is twofold, right? Like it is impossible for an adult, even me as like someone who used to stand in this role, to know every single thing that every single kid should be able to take advantage of. Now AI can assist that. As AI became more intelligent, now we can use the data that we have on kids to assist them on their path and helping them to have suggestions and results. The third thing is, I think because AI democratizes knowledge, now we can have a place for kids to ask questions 24/7 in a world where their counselors just aren't available. And I think it's like really interesting because if you look at the college application landscape, right? If you look at deadlines, so the deadline for the UC college application is due the week of Thanksgiving. You know who's off the week of Thanksgiving? Counselors,
Right.
right? If you look at all your highly selective schools, so your top 25, most of their applications are due between January 2nd and January 5th. You know who's off for 2 weeks, 1 to 2 weeks right before that? School counselors. And this is another nuance around resource and under-resourced kids. Under-resourced kids have to depend on their school counselor. Upper resource kids, their families understand the value of getting external help. So a lot of them will have an independent counselor who has a different schedule and can actually be in the weeds with students Christmas night, right? Like,
Right.
so all of these things are happening. And so if you look at all of these different nuances, students who are becoming more and more overwhelmed, and that overwhelm can actually be distilled with more knowledge, AI can be the distiller, right? It can say, oh, this is what you need to know. You don't have to wait for another month with your appointment with your school counselor. You can get it right now. So it became both an assisted, tool for students, kind of well-being, but also it became mediated advising as well.
So, can you tell us what might it look like for if there is such thing as a typical student benefiting from Uprooted Academy? What might their journey look like? And their interaction with Uprooted?
Yeah, so we partner with high schools and they integrate our work into advisory. Students take an assessment and then there's modules. So remember those videos that I talked about before, we still have them in there, but now those videos are intelligent. So Peter, if it knows that you're interested in something, it'll like push a video towards you. It also has everything in there from like looking for pre-college programs and scholarships and colleges. But again, AI makes it a lot easier because I don't need you to search and have all the filters. I can just suggest to you what you might want. And then on the other end, it also provides support and a coach for our counselors who are overwhelmed. And so they see the data on the back end and says, oh, Tiffany needs to be met with today because her next application is due in 2 weeks. So it helps them to prioritize and manage that caseload. And then we have a family community feature where they're also being coached in real time with AI. So that way they can meet the moment for their students, even if they have never gone to college themselves.
Wow. Now, Tiffany, I didn't hear you mention the vocational interest inventory, the stack of cards with the I'm so old that was my career guidance, was to poke a spear through a stack of cards. And this sounds
we still have those assessments. They're just digital now. And all of that data helps to feed and understand who kids are and to put opportunities in front of them. Because remember how I mentioned before, historically before AI, students, even if they knew about an opportunity, they now had to find it. With AI, we can help them and put it right in front of them like a platter of all their favorite, candy cookie bars that they would want based off of the data on the back end. So it's a really powerful opportunity to, like I said, I call it an equity bridge builder, because we're talking about what would normally cost $20,000 for an individual counselor, kids have access to. Now, let me be very clear. The best solution for kids is a human. We need more counselors, but that hasn't happened in the last 20 years. The caseloads are not really changing much. And the world of opportunities have become more vast. Peter, I imagine when you went to college, you probably applied to 1 to 2 schools. You might have applied somewhere outside of your hometown. Students now are applying all over the place. Although some places we're seeing that people are starting to come back to their home area. But a school counselor or guidance counselor 20 years ago only had to know about the schools in their state, maybe even in their 2-hour region. Now they need to know about everything from both 4-year, 2-year workforce, CTE, apprenticeship programs. It's impossible. So AI helps us to help them become really good at their job and really love it and feel really useful.
Yeah. Tiffany, I love what you're doing. This work is just amazing. But we're out of time. Where can people find out more about Uprooted Academy if they're interested in learning more?
Yeah, uprootedacademy.org. That's our website. I do some postings on LinkedIn about kind of some of the work and how I think and what makes our work pretty unique and special, at least to me, on LinkedIn. So you can find me there, Tiffany Green, Uprooted Academy, just put that in the search, and happy to always connect. And then, I think we're always very curious. We're learning. So we have this direct service model, but there's a lot of indirect learnings that are happening that we're helping the fields with. And so people have interest in any of that, I'm always happy to chat, or my team as well.
That's awesome. Well, I want to thank our listeners for listening to One Good Idea, the SEAM podcast. Of course, I'm the host, Peter Franzen, and my guest today has been Dr. Tiffany Green, founder of Uprooted Academy. Thank you, Tiffany. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.